In a world gilded with the cold gleam of ambition and the hollow echo of success, there once lived a man named Elias Vance. His name resonated in boardrooms and across financial pages, synonymous with unparalleled wealth, shrewd business acumen, and an empire built from sheer will and unyielding determination. From humble beginnings, Elias had clawed his way to the pinnacle, accumulating a fortune that would make kings envious. Private jets were his taxis, sprawling estates his fleeting residences, and a retinue of staff his silent shadows. Yet, for all the material splendors that surrounded him, Elias Vance was a prisoner within his own golden cage, a lonely millionaire lost in the vast, empty expanse of his own making. His days were a monotonous symphony of high-stakes deals, endless meetings, and the sterile hum of technology. His nights were long, punctuated only by the clinking of ice in an expensive glass and the suffocating silence of a mansion too large for one soul. He possessed everything money could buy, yet he yearned for the one thing it couldn't: genuine connection. Every relationship he had known felt transactional. Every smile seemed to carry an agenda, every touch a hidden price. He had learned, through bitter experience, that his wealth was a magnet for the opportunistic, a barrier to true intimacy. The deeper he delved into the labyrinth of his fortune, the further he strayed from the warmth of human touch, the comfort of shared laughter, the solace of unburdened conversation. Elias had built walls around his heart, brick by invisible brick, until it became an impenetrable fortress. He saw the world through a cynical lens, convinced that altruism was a myth and love a fragile illusion concocted by poets and dreamers. He had witnessed betrayal, greed, and the corrupting influence of power too many times to believe otherwise. His trust had been shattered, his spirit bruised, leaving behind a man hardened by life's cruel lessons, a man who had forgotten how to hope. The weight of his isolation was a physical burden, a constant ache in his chest, a whisper in the quiet hours that told him he was utterly, irrevocably alone. The vastness of his success felt like an even vaster emptiness, a profound void that no amount of acquisition could ever fill. He would often stare out from the panoramic windows of his penthouses, looking down at the bustling city lights, each a tiny beacon of life, yet feeling more disconnected than ever. He was an observer, not a participant in the vibrant tapestry of human existence unfolding beneath him. He had tried, in his own way, to fill the void. Philanthropy initially had seemed like a noble endeavor, a means to give back. But even there he found himself scrutinizing motives, questioning the sincerity of gratitude, and ultimately feeling detached from the very causes he supported. The reports and spreadsheets that quantified his donations provided no emotional resonance, no sense of fulfillment. It was just another transaction, another number on a ledger, rather than a bridge to genuine human suffering or joy. He had sought out fleeting pleasures, luxurious getaways, exotic experiences, but each adventure, no matter how extravagant, eventually dissolved into the same pervasive sense of ennui. The thrill was momentary, the emptiness perpetual. He was an emperor without an empire of the heart, a king without a kingdom of the soul. His health, despite the best medical care money could buy, began to reflect his inner turmoil. Sleepless nights became the norm, his appetite waned, and a perpetual weariness etched itself onto his once vibrant features. His eyes, once sharp and piercing, now held a dull, resigned quality, mirroring the barren landscape of his emotional life. He carried himself with the heavy gait of a man burdened by an invisible weight, a phantom limb of happiness that had long been amputated. His advisors, his lawyers, his personal assistants, they all noticed the change. the increasing reclusiveness, the deepening shadow that clung to Elias Vance. But no one dared to comment, to pierce the veil of his formidable solitude. They were paid to execute his will, not to tend to his soul. And Elias, for his part, offered no invitation for such intrusion. He believed he was beyond help, beyond repair, destined to live out his days as a solitary monument to his own achievements, a testament to the price of absolute success. He found himself wandering the city streets sometimes, disguised in simple clothes, yearning for a glimpse of ordinary life, of genuine human interaction free from the filter of his wealth. He'd watch couples laughing, children playing, friends sharing a meal, and a profound ache would settle in his chest. He saw in their eyes a light he no longer possessed, a warmth that had long since extinguished within him. He was an alien in his own world, a ghost haunting the corridors of his own opulent existence. He had lost all hope, not in the market, not in his businesses, but in the very essence of life itself. He had come to believe that happiness was a myth, love a fleeting chemical reaction, and human connection a dangerous vulnerability. He was resigned to his fate, a millionaire utterly alone, adrift in a sea of his own making, without a compass or a guiding star. It was during one such aimless wander through a forgotten corner of the city, a district far removed from the polished facades of his usual haunts, that Elias Vance's carefully constructed world began to subtly, imperceptibly shift. The air here was different, thick with the scent of street food, damp earth, and the vibrant, unfiltered cacophony of everyday life. Buildings were older, worn like beloved books, their facades telling stories of generations lived and dreams nurtured. Children played in narrow alleyways, their laughter echoing with an unburdened joy that struck Elias as both foreign and strangely compelling. Here the struggle was visible, etched on the faces of people who toiled for their daily bread, yet there was also a palpable sense of community, a shared resilience he hadn't encountered in his insulated world. He had stumbled upon a small, bustling street market, a kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and aromas. Vendors called out their wares, haggling with good-natured banter, and shoppers moved with an easy familiarity, greeting each other like old friends. Elias, cloaked in an anonymity he rarely experienced, observed it all with a detached curiosity. His gaze, accustomed to scanning financial reports and market trends, now lingered on the intricate details of a grandmother carefully selecting vegetables, a young man repairing a worn shoe with practiced hands, a street musician coaxing soulful melodies from a battered guitar. He saw struggle, yes, but he also saw connection, perseverance, and a raw, unvarnished beauty that had been absent from his sterile existence. It was then that he saw her. She was tending a small, unpretentious flower stall, her hands stained with soil, her simple dress faded but clean. Her hair, the color of rich earth, was pulled back in a loose braid, and stray strands framed a face that was unmarred by makeup, yet radiated a quiet luminescence. Her eyes, a striking shade of hazel, held a depth that belied her youthful appearance, a hint of challenges overcome, yet they sparkled with an undeniable warmth, a gentle compassion. She moved with an easy grace, carefully arranging bouquets, her fingers delicate as she handled the fragile petals. She wasn't beautiful in the conventional, polished sense Elias was used to seeing in his circles, but there was an authentic, unassuming beauty about her, an inner light that seemed to chase away the shadows. A young boy, no older than 5, approached her stall, clutching a single crumpled dollar bill. His eyes were wide with wonder as he pointed to a vibrant red rose. The girl, Lena, as Elias would later learn, bent down to his level, a soft smile gracing her lips. She listened patiently as the boy, with halting words, explained he wanted the rose for his mother, who was feeling unwell. Lena picked out the most perfect rose, its petals unfurling in a velvety embrace. She didn't just hand it to him. She carefully wrapped it in a piece of paper, tied it with a thin ribbon, and then, with a conspiratorial wink, added a tiny sprig of baby's breath, for good luck.
The boy's face lit up with pure, unadulterated joy, a sight that pierced through Elias's cynical armor. He watched as Lena refused the dollar, gently pushing the boy's hand back. "Keep it, little one," she murmured, her voice soft as velvet. "Tell your mother it's from a friend. Just promise me you'll bring her another smile." The boy, momentarily confused, then beamed, clutching the rose and the dollar, before scampering off, his small victory a beacon of hope in the bustling market. Elias, hidden in the shadows of an awning, felt an unfamiliar sensation stir within him. It wasn't pity, for Lena exuded no sense of self-pity. It was something akin to admiration, a flicker of warmth in the glacial landscape of his heart. He had seen countless acts of charity, but never one so spontaneous, so pure, so utterly devoid of expectation or ulterior motive. This wasn't the calculated donation. It was a simple act of human kindness, offered freely, without thought of reward. It was a stark contrast to the transactional world he inhabited, where every gesture had a hidden ledger entry. He found himself drawn closer, his sophisticated, expensive shoes treading on the uneven pavement, a stark contrast to the worn boots and sandals of the other market-goers. He hesitated, unsure of what to say or even why he was approaching. His usual conversational gambits, honed in boardrooms, felt utterly out of place here. He watched her for a few more moments, seeing her interact with other customers, an elderly woman haggling playfully for a bunch of lavender, a young couple debating the merits of sunflowers versus daisies, a solitary man buying a single white lily. With each interaction, Lena offered the same genuine smile, the same patient attention, the same quiet dignity. She radiated a calm strength, an inner peace that seemed to defy the evident struggles of her surroundings. Finally, he approached the stall. His presence, even in his deliberately dismarked attire, felt out of place. His tailored clothes, though simple, bespoke quality that whispered of a different world. Lena looked up, her hazel eyes meeting his, and for a fleeting moment, Elias felt exposed, as if she could see right through his constructed facade, past the expensive watch hidden beneath his cuff, past the designer wallet in his pocket, straight into the desolation of his soul.
"Can I help you, sir?" she asked, her voice gentle, without a hint of the usual deference or fawning he received from people who recognized his name. She treated him like any other customer, a simple man looking for flowers. He cleared his throat, suddenly feeling awkward, his practiced eloquence deserting him. "Yes," he managed, his voice rougher than he intended. I'd like a bouquet." Lena's eyebrows arched slightly, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "Any particular kind, sir, or for a special occasion?" He hesitated. A bouquet? For whom? He had no one. He hadn't bought flowers for anyone in years, not genuinely. "No occasion," he admitted, feeling a flush creep up his neck. "Just something beautiful, something that doesn't fade too quickly." A small, knowing smile touched Lena's lips. "Ah, a challenge then," she mused, her eyes twinkling. She turned, her back to him for a moment, and began to select flowers with an artist's precision. She chose vibrant yellow sunflowers, their faces open and optimistic, intermingled with deep blue irises, symbolizing hope and faith. She added sprigs of fragrant eucalyptus, and then, surprisingly, a few delicate white sweet peas, which Lena explained were for lasting pleasure. It wasn't a grand, opulent arrangement, but a thoughtful, harmonious blend of colors and textures, each bloom carefully chosen. As she wrapped the bouquet, her fingers deftly weaving the paper and ribbon, Elias found himself speaking, an impulse he hadn't anticipated. "Why did you give that boy the rose for free?" She paused, her head tilted slightly. She looked up at him, her gaze direct and unwavering. "Because he needed it more than I needed his dollar," she said, simply, as if it were the most obvious truth in the world.
His mother was sad. A single rose, freely given, can sometimes be more potent than any medicine. "But your business," Elias pressed, a flicker of his cynical mind reasserting itself. "You need to make a living." She shrugged, a small, graceful movement. "A living, yes, but not at the expense of kindness. There's enough to go around. And besides," she added, a faint blush on her cheeks, "the joy on his face, that's payment enough sometimes. It reminds me why I do this." Elias was silenced. Her words, so simple, so profound, resonated with an unfamiliar truth that chipped away at the hardened layers of his heart. He had spent his life accumulating, acquiring, calculating profit and loss. She spoke of joy as payment, of kindness as currency. It was a paradigm shift he hadn't considered possible. He took the bouquet, the flowers cool and fragrant against his hand. He paid her, not with a crumpled dollar bill, but with a crisp $100 bill, much more than the modest price of the bouquet. Lena looked at the bill, then at him, a quizzical expression on her face. "Sir, this is far too much," she said, trying to hand back the change. "Keep it," Elias said, his voice a little softer this time. "For the next sad mother, or for another boy who needs a rose." He surprised himself with the words, a spontaneity he hadn't felt in years. He realized he wasn't just paying for the flowers. He was paying for the glimpse of humanity she had offered him, for the unexpected warmth that had begun to thaw the ice around his soul. Lena's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of understanding passing through them. She didn't argue further, simply nodded, a silent acknowledgment of the unspoken exchange. "Thank you, sir," she said, her smile genuine and radiant. "May these bring you peace." Elias walked away from the stall, the vibrant bouquet clutched in his hand, feeling a lightness he hadn't experienced in years. The flowers were a stark contrast to the sterile opulence of his penthouse, but for the first time in a long time, his home didn't feel quite so empty. He placed them in a prominent vase, their colors a defiant splash against the muted tones of his minimalist decor. He found himself looking at them, not just as decorative objects, but as a tangible reminder of that encounter, of Lena's quiet strength, her unwavering kindness, her simple wisdom. He thought about her words, about joy as payment, of kindness as currency. It was a seed planted in barren ground, a tiny spark in the encroaching darkness. Days turned into a week, and then 2. The flowers surprisingly did not fade quickly. He changed their water meticulously, trimmed their stems, tending to them with a care he usually reserved for his most important business documents. Each morning, their presence was a silent question, a gentle nudge. He found himself thinking of Lena, of her gentle smile, her perceptive eyes, her unassuming grace. He was a man who had mastered the art of complex financial algorithms, yet he found himself captivated by the simple, profound arithmetic of human connection.
He returned to the market, not with a plan, not with an agenda, but with an inexplicable pull towards that humble flower stall. He tried to tell himself it was curiosity, a sociological experiment, but deep down, a different truth stirred. He yearned for that unexpected warmth, for the quiet dignity that Lena exuded. He found her there, just as before, tending to her blooms, her spirit as bright and unwavering as the sunflowers she sold. This time, their conversation was longer, more natural. He asked about the different flowers, their meanings, their origins. Lena spoke with a quiet passion, her knowledge of botany surprising him. She told him stories of the flowers, of the solace they brought to people, the celebrations they graced, the unspoken messages they carried. He learned that she cultivated many of them herself, in a small community garden on the outskirts of the city, nurturing them from tiny seeds to vibrant blooms. Her hands, he noticed, were calloused, evidence of hard work, yet they moved with such tenderness. He began to visit her stall regularly, initially under the guise of buying flowers, but soon simply to talk. He spoke little about himself, deflecting questions about his profession with vague answers, unwilling to let his wealth become a barrier between them. He listened as Lena spoke of her life, her dreams, her quiet struggles. She lived in a small apartment with her widowed mother, supporting them both with the income from her flower stall and occasional odd jobs. Her days were long, her resources limited, yet she spoke of her life with a profound sense of gratitude and purpose. She found beauty in the smallest things, the morning dew on a rose petal, the resilience of a dandelion pushing through concrete, the laughter of children playing in the street. Elias, accustomed to a world where happiness was equated with accumulation, found himself mesmerized by her philosophy. She possessed a richness he had never encountered, a wealth of spirit that transcended material possessions. She had an uncanny ability to find light in the darkest corners, to cultivate hope where others saw only despair. He watched her interact with the other vendors, with her neighbors, with the children who often congregated around her stall. She offered a kind word, a helping hand, a listening ear to everyone. She was a quiet anchor in her community, a source of gentle strength and unwavering compassion. Slowly, imperceptibly, the walls around Elias's heart began to crumble. He found himself sharing snippets of his own life, not the grand narratives of his business triumphs, but the small human moments of doubt, of loneliness, of yearning. He spoke of the hollowness he felt, the burden of expectations, the isolation that came with immense success. Lena listened without judgment, her hazel eyes reflecting a deep empathy. She didn't offer advice or platitudes, she simply offered understanding, a rare and precious gift. One afternoon, a torrential rainstorm swept through the city, turning the market into a chaotic scramble. Vendors rushed to cover their stalls, shoppers scattered, and the vibrant scene dissolved into a muddy mess. Elias, caught in the downpour, instinctively sought shelter under a rickety awning, watching as Lena, despite the deluge, struggled to protect her delicate blooms. She was soaked to the bone, her hair plastered to her face, yet she worked with a fierce determination, gently coaxing a tarp over her precious flowers. Without thinking, Elias shed his expensive waterproof jacket and rushed to her side, helping her secure the tarp. His hands, usually accustomed to signing documents and typing on keyboards, felt clumsy, but he worked with an unfamiliar urgency. He saw the genuine surprise in her eyes, followed by a flicker of gratitude. For a moment, they were just two people, battling the elements together, stripped of their disparate social standings. Once her flowers were safe, Lena looked at him, a genuine smile breaking through her rain-streaked face. "Thank you, Elias," she said, using her first name for the first time, her voice a warm balm against the cold rain. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," he found himself saying, the words coming from a place deep within him he hadn't known existed. "You're trying to save beauty. That's worth fighting for." They stood there for a moment, under the inadequate shelter, the rain drumming a rhythm around them. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers. In that moment, something shifted irrevocably between them. It wasn't just friendship, but it was something deeper, something nascent and profoundly meaningful. It was the first time Elias had truly felt needed, not for his money or his influence, but for his simple presence, his willingness to help. And it was the first time he had offered help without the shadow of expectation. Over the next few months, their bond deepened, quietly, organically, like a seed slowly pushing through the soil towards the sun. Elias started spending more and more time away from his sterile world, drawn to the vibrant, messy reality of Lena's life. He learned to appreciate the simple pleasures, the warmth of a freshly brewed cup of tea shared at her small apartment, the earthy smell of the community garden where she nurtured her flowers, the easy banter with her neighbors, who slowly, cautiously began to accept him.
He learned to see the city through her eyes, not as a sprawling metropolis of ambition and opportunity, but as a tapestry of human stories, of resilience, of interconnectedness. He saw the beauty in the worn cobblestones, the wisdom in the weathered faces, the strength in the communal spirit. He watched Lena interact with her mother, a woman whose spirit was as gentle and resilient as her daughter's, despite the hardships they had faced. He witnessed the unwavering love and respect that flowed between them, a stark contrast to the strained, often non-existent relationships in his own life. Lena, in turn, saw past the formidable facade of the millionaire. She saw the lonely man beneath, the man burdened by his own success, yearning for something real. She saw his quiet kindness, his unexpected vulnerability, his hunger for genuine connection. She didn't try to change him, but her presence, her unwavering belief in the goodness of humanity, slowly began to melt the ice around his heart. She didn't treat him as Elias Vance, the CEO, the magnate, but simply as Elias, a man who needed a friend, a man who, despite his immense wealth, was profoundly poor in spirit. He started helping her in the garden. His hands, once used to signing multi-million-dollar contracts, now learned the delicate art of planting seeds, weeding beds, and pruning roses. He found a meditative peace in the rhythm of the earth, in the simple act of nurturing life. He felt a sense of purpose he had never derived from his corporate conquests. The scent of soil on his hands, the warmth of the sun on his face, the quiet satisfaction of seeing something grow under his care, these were treasures more valuable than any stock certificate. Their conversations grew deeper, more intimate. They spoke of fears, of dreams, of the meaning of life. Elias, for the first time, felt truly seen, truly heard. Lena's wisdom wasn't academic or theoretical. It was born from experience, from resilience, from a life lived close to the earth and close to the hearts of people. She taught him about the cycles of nature, about the importance of patience, about the beauty of impermanence, lessons that resonated profoundly with his own journey of loss and rediscovery. One evening, as they sat on a park bench overlooking the city, the stars beginning to prick holes in the velvet sky, Elias found himself confessing the full extent of his despair, his profound sense of meaninglessness, the dark abyss of loneliness that had consumed him. He spoke of his lost hope, of his conviction that true love and genuine happiness were not for him. Lena listened, her hand gently resting on his. When he finished, she didn't offer empty reassurances. Instead, she looked at him, her eyes filled with a tenderness that brought tears to his own. "Elias," she said softly, "hope is not something you find. It's something you cultivate, like a seed. It needs nurturing, patience, and a belief that even in the darkest soil something beautiful can grow." She continued, her voice a balm to his wounded soul. "You've built an empire of concrete and steel, of numbers and transactions, but the greatest empires are built on love, on connection, on the simple acts of kindness that ripple outwards. You have so much to give, Elias, not just your wealth, but your heart. Don't let the shadows of the past define your future. You deserve love just like anyone else,
and you are capable of giving it more than you know." Her words were a revelation, a profound truth that resonated deep within him. He had been so focused on what he had lost, on what he lacked, that he had forgotten what he was capable of giving. He had built walls to protect himself, but those same walls had imprisoned him. Lena, with her simple, unwavering love, had shown him the way out. In the ensuing weeks, their relationship blossomed into a love Elias had once believed to be a mere fairy tale. It was a love born not of convenience or expectation, but of mutual respect, deep understanding, and an unshakable belief in each other's inherent goodness. Lena's love was a gentle rain on his parched soul, bringing forth life where there had been only barrenness. She didn't ask him to abandon his world, but she invited him to bring his heart into it, to infuse his actions with purpose beyond profit.
Elias began to transform, not just internally, but in the way he interacted with the world. He started with small gestures, inspired by Lena's innate generosity. He invested in local community projects, not as a tax write-off, but with genuine interest and hands-on involvement. He helped Lena expand her community garden, turning it into a vibrant hub for the neighborhood, a place where people could connect, learn, and grow together. He used his business acumen to help small, ethical businesses in Lena's community thrive, offering guidance and resources without seeking control. His employees, his board members, his former associates, they all noticed the change. The cold, impenetrable Elias Vance was slowly being replaced by a man who smiled more genuinely, who listened more attentively, who spoke with a newfound warmth and empathy. He still commanded respect, but now it was tinged with affection, with genuine admiration for his evolving character. He was still a shrewd businessman, but now his decisions were tempered by a deeper understanding of human impact, of ethical responsibility. Of course, their unlikely relationship faced its share of challenges. The tabloids, ever eager for a sensational story, initially tried to paint Lena as a gold digger, a fortune hunter preying on the lonely millionaire. Elias, however, handled it with a calm he wouldn't have possessed before meeting Lena. He publicly acknowledged their relationship, speaking with a sincerity that disarmed even the most cynical reporters. He spoke not of Lena's background, but of her character, her spirit, her profound impact on his life. He protected her fierce privacy, ensuring that their love remained their own, unmarred by the glare of public scrutiny. Lena, for her part, remained unfazed by the sudden attention. She continued to live her life with the same quiet dignity and unwavering grace, tending her flowers, caring for her mother, and nurturing her community. She didn't seek the spotlight, and she didn't allow the judgment of others to define her. Her strength lay in her authenticity, in her unwavering commitment to her values, qualities that Elias admired more than any worldly possession. Their love was a bridge between two vastly different worlds, demonstrating that true connection transcends social strata, wealth, and background. It proved that the human heart, no matter how bruised or cynical, possesses an infinite capacity for healing, for growth, for rediscovering hope. Elias, the lonely millionaire who had lost all hope, found not just love, but a profound redefinition of what it meant to be rich. He realized that true wealth lay not in the accumulation of material possessions, but in the richness of human relationships, in the shared laughter, the whispered confidences, the comforting presence of another soul. He learned that the greatest luxury was not a private jet or a sprawling estate, but the simple joy of sharing a quiet moment with the person you love, watching the sunset, or tending a garden together. He learned that the most valuable currency was not money, but kindness, empathy, and unconditional love. He learned that true success wasn't measured by net worth, but by the impact one had on the lives of others, by the love one cultivated, by the hope one inspired. Elias Vance, once a solitary titan of industry, now found himself part of a vibrant tapestry of life woven with threads of love, community, and shared purpose. He continued to manage his empire, but now with a different heart, a different vision. He channeled his resources into initiatives that uplifted communities, nurtured talent,
and fostered genuine human connection. He became a patron of arts programs in underserved areas, a supporter of sustainable agriculture, and a quiet champion for those who, like Lena, found beauty and strength in simplicity. He married Lena in a small, intimate ceremony in the community garden, surrounded by their closest friends and family, the fragrant blooms a testament to their love. It was a wedding unlike any society wedding Elias could have orchestrated, but it was infinitely more meaningful, more beautiful, more real. Lena wore a simple white dress, adorned with fresh flowers from her own garden, and her eyes, as she looked at Elias, sparkled with a love that transcended words. Their life together was a continuous journey of learning, of growing, of nurturing the love that had bloomed from such unlikely soil. They continued to live in Lena's modest apartment, though Elias ensured it was comfortable and safe, but they also spent time at one of his smaller, more understated estates, transforming it into a haven of peace and shared dreams. Lena never lost her connection to the market, to her garden, to the community that had shaped her, and Elias, in turn, never lost his connection to the lessons she had taught him. He remained grounded, humble, forever mindful of the profound transformation she had brought into his life.
The story of Elias and Lena became a quiet legend in their corner of the city, a testament to the power of love to bridge divides, to heal wounds, to rekindle hope in the most desolate of hearts. It was a story whispered by market vendors, shared among friends in the community garden, and perhaps even pondered by the occasional business associate who wondered at the profound change in Elias Vance. Elias Vance, the lonely millionaire, had found more than just love. He had found himself. He had found a purpose beyond profit, a joy beyond material possessions, and a connection that filled the cavernous emptiness of his soul. He had learned that true wealth was not measured in dollars and cents, but in the richness of a shared life, in the warmth of a loving hand, in the quiet wisdom of a compassionate heart. He had lost all hope, but through the unwavering love of a poor girl, he had rediscovered not just hope, but the very essence of what it means to be alive, to truly live, to truly love. And Lena, the girl who saw beyond the millions, found a love that was as deep and vast as the ocean, a partner who learned to see the world through her eyes, and a shared future built on the unshakable foundation of empathy, understanding, and a profound, enduring love. Their story serves as a timeless reminder that sometimes the greatest treasures are found not in grand palaces, but in the simplest gestures, in the most unexpected places, and in the most unassuming of hearts. It reminds us that no matter how much we accumulate, if we lose our connection to humanity, to kindness, to love, we are truly impoverished. And no matter how little we possess, if our hearts are open, if our spirits are generous, we are richer than any king. The profound transformation of Elias Vance was not a sudden epiphany, but a slow, deliberate unfolding, a testament to Lena's unwavering patience and the gentle persistence of her love. He had spent decades building a fortress around his heart, and it took time for those walls to crumble, for the fear and cynicism to dissipate, for the warmth of genuine connection to finally penetrate. Lena understood this. She never pushed, never demanded, simply offered her presence, her understanding, her quiet strength. He started to actively engage with the stories of the people in Lena's community, not just as a philanthropist, but as a genuine human being interested in their lives. He would sit with elderly men and women, listening to their tales of hardship and resilience, of joys and sorrows. He learned about the struggles of small business owners, the dreams of aspiring artists, the challenges faced by single mothers. Each story, each interaction chipped away at his former detachment, weaving him more deeply into the fabric of a world he had once only observed from a distance. He discovered the simple pleasure of helping someone fix a leaky roof, or carrying groceries for an elderly neighbor, or reading stories to children at the local community center.
These acts, so far removed from his complex dealings in the corporate life, brought him a profound sense of fulfillment that his multi-million-dollar deals never could. He realized that true impact wasn't always about grand gestures or large sums of money. Often it was about the small, consistent acts of kindness that built trust, fostered connection, and made a tangible difference in someone's day. Lena often reminded him, "Elias, the most beautiful flowers are often the ones that grow in the most unexpected places, pushing through concrete, defying the odds. They teach us about resilience, about finding beauty even in adversity. People are the same. Every person has a story, a struggle, and a unique beauty that deserves to be seen and nurtured." Her words became a guiding principle for him, a lens through which he began to view the world, transforming his perception from one of transactional value to one of inherent worth. He started to reevaluate his own company's practices, looking beyond profit margins to consider the ethical implications of their global operations. He initiated programs to support fair wages and safe working conditions in their supply chains, even if it meant a temporary dip in profits. He invested in sustainable technologies, prioritizing long-term environmental health over short-term gains. His board, initially skeptical, soon recognized the profound shift in his leadership style, and surprisingly, the renewed vitality and purpose it instilled in the company culture. Employees, feeling valued and part of a more meaningful mission, became more engaged, more innovative, more loyal. Elias Vance's empire, once a cold monument to individual ambition, was slowly transforming into a beacon of conscious capitalism, driven by a heart that had learned to love.
His relationship with his remaining family, distant and strained for years, also began to mend. Inspired by Lena's emphasis on genuine connection, Elias reached out to his estranged sister, offering an olive branch not of financial assistance, but of heartfelt apology and a desire to reconnect. It was a slow and arduous process, fraught with years of unspoken resentments and misunderstandings, but Lena encouraged him, reminding him that love and forgiveness are continuous choices, not single events. The journey toward familial reconciliation was just beginning, but for the first time, Elias felt he had the emotional tools and the supportive partner to navigate it. Lena, too, found a new dimension to her life through Elias. While she cherished her simple existence, Elias opened her eyes to possibilities she had never dreamed of. He supported her passion for horticulture, helping her establish a foundation to create more community gardens across the city, bringing green spaces and fresh produce to underserved neighborhoods. He provided the resources, but Lena provided the vision, the heart, and the hands-on dedication. Together, they made a tangible difference, planting seeds of hope and beauty not just in the soil, but in the hearts of countless people. Their love story wasn't without its quiet moments of introspection. It shared vulnerabilities. Elias still grappled with the lingering shadows of his past, the fear of losing what he had found, the occasional pang of his old cynicism. But now he had Lena. Her unwavering belief in him, her gentle wisdom, and her boundless capacity for love were his anchors. When doubt crept in, she would remind him of how far he had come, of the profound change he had embodied, of the love that had transformed him. Lena, with her own experiences of hardship, understood the fragility of happiness, the transient nature of joy. She taught Elias that love wasn't about perfection or the absence of struggle, but about navigating life's complexities together, hand in hand, with an open heart and an unshakable commitment. She taught him to appreciate the small moments, the quiet joys, the everyday miracles that often go unnoticed in the rush of life. Their home, whether it was Lena's small apartment or one of Elias's more modest properties, was always filled with warmth, with laughter, with the scent of fresh flowers. It was a place where stories were shared, where dreams were nurtured, where love bloomed in abundance.
It was a sanctuary from the relentless demands of the world, a testament to the fact that true wealth lies in the quality of one's relationships, in the richness of one's spirit, in the depth of one's love. Elias Vance, the man who had once believed he was destined for a life of solitary splendor, had found his true home not in a mansion, but in the heart of a woman who taught him the meaning of love, of hope, and of human connection. He had lost all hope, but Lena, the poor girl with the rich spirit, had shown him that love is not just an emotion, but a powerful, transformative force that can heal the deepest wounds, illuminate the darkest paths, and ultimately redefine the very essence of what it means to live a truly rich and fulfilling life. Their journey was a living testament to the idea that wealth, when combined with compassion and purpose, can be a powerful tool for good, but that without love, without connection, without a heart open to the world, even the greatest fortune is nothing more than a gilded cage. Elias had learned that the greatest legacy he could leave behind was not his financial empire, but the love he shared, the lives he touched, and the hope he helped to cultivate in a world desperately in need of it. If this story of transformation, hope, and the profound power of love has touched your heart and resonated with your spirit, please consider subscribing to our channel. Join our community as we continue to share stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us all of the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. Your support helps us bring more tales of emotional triumph into the world. Thank you.